for that. Okay, now I got a question I usually ask all of my guests.
Okay.
How do you feel about being a black woman in American society today?
Well, I am a black woman in American society today, and not only am I a black woman, I'm also Native American. My roots, my grandmother was 100% Sapani. You may be able to tell that from my hair texture, my skin complexion. But I say that I get it like two ways. I feel it in my DNA. I feel the ownership of the land. I feel the complexity of the relationships and my white counterparts. I feel that the sense of partnership and uh, the way I have allies. I really live that like on a daily basis, and it's not something that is fleeting. It dwells with me. And I think it's because I get it on both ends with the Native American and the black in my DNA. I really am in a highly conscious, aware state with almost everything that I do. Anything that I purchase, I try to be extremely conscious about how I purchase that, what the power is in me purchasing that. What am I influencing when I purchase that? If I go to Walmart, I know that I'm helping the Waltons, and 98% of those funds are going to China. It's important that we're conscious about the actions that we take, because that's our power in the land. We always talk about being empowered, but we carry power. We carry power, and that power is exuded when we plug into something. You don't know what a battery has in it until you plug it into something. So every time you plug into something, that's when you pay for something. You plug it into something. So how are you wielding your power? So I'm very conscious about how I wield my power. When it's time to eat at a restaurant, I call my inner city Wakanda. So I try to make sure that I stay in Wakanda. I love the Wakandians. I don't look at any issues that we have in our community as innate. I look at them as that they're more environmental. It's been the environment that has created a lot of our maladies. So I'm extremely conscious of that when I deal with my brothers and my sisters and how they are carrying through the day and what their energy is vibing like. I take all of those matters into consideration as I relate to my brothers and as I have my relationships and transactions with them, trying to limit the transactions and increase the relationships. So even in whether it's patronizing a black business or holding a conversation with a sister or brother, I try to make it as deep as possible and not shallow where it's just like, yeah, here's that. More of like, how you doing today? Really being a village, really, exuding that in my actions and my words and my everyday activities. And I think that that's critical. We have been taught through this capitalistic system and really shaped by this system to operate in this silo, self focused fashion. And it's unnatural. As a people, our heritage and our culture is that of village, it's that of community, it's that of unity, it's not of division and all of the separatism, whether it's religion or class or race. All of these are part of the structural violence that has created so much division in our communities and is really the source of many of our maladies, from food apartheid to gun violence. So we have to be conscious and have a raised level of consciousness that we can actually transfer it. That's the true evidence of power, is when we can transfer power to another. So making that power flow. So that's what I encourage all of my black brothers and sisters across this broadcast to do, is to identify how you can transfer power and keep a conscious awareness of how you're doing that when you go through your day-to-day activities and your conversations. How are you transferring power? What kind of power are you transferring? Is it good energy? Is it negative energy? What is it doing for the betterment of our cause? Because it's about the big picture. We're just, as individuals, one tiny piece. But think about what we're doing for that big picture, and make somebody consciously aware by being consciously aware yourself.
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. Powerful. I mean, like you say, as Black people, we have to put more thought into the things that we are buying and spending our money on each day, because that is a
Mm-hmm.
form of power. And we have a tremendous amount of spending and buying power. And I think in
Mm-hmm.
comparison to other groups, say maybe like the Asian community, the Jewish community, the Arab community, they buy and support for their people on a daily basis. They live this as a way of life, versus in the Black community, we kind of support Black people in like almost as is in charity, like, oh yeah, I'll
Yeah.
support a Black business today, I'm gonna do something
Right.
nice. But they live like this is how they
Mm-hmm.
survive, this is how they maintain power.
Yeah.
So we need to go the extra mile, and if we can, support each other, because it's going to benefit us all in the long run. So thank you
That's
for
right.
addressing that. You broke that
That's
down,
right.
Queen. Let me
That's
see.
right. That's right. We oftentimes quote, we oftentimes quote and talk about karma, but we don't realize that it works in all things. Like, it's cyclical. It's like a
Yeah.
pendulum. If that pendulum can swing high on this side, it's going to swing just as high on the next side. But you want to make sure it swings so high that it flows back around, because you want to stay here, but you're going to experience it at all. Our community has its ups and its downs, its peaks and its valleys. But the idea is to keep the vibration going. Keep the vibration going. We've got to be living in this movement. This moment has to be the movement. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that we have tremendous momentum, and I'm encouraged. I'm actually very encouraged at this time, especially when we had to go through this pandemic and we could see them like take control and just shut down everything. That's a whole nother topic.
Right. But you are definitely inspiring. So I know the viewers, they're gonna enjoy this episode. So we getting
Good.
down to the last,
Okay.
the last little question. I wanted to ask you. You earlier you mentioned a lot of different projects that you were working on. If there's any other projects that you want to talk about before we end the episode, and also you could leave them with your contact information or the Gem City contact information.
Yeah. So as you start working in your communities and building cooperatives and collective impact, be conscious of gentrification, because what's happening right now in this dispensation is that many of those that engaged in white flight, many of those families and many of those generations that engaged in white flight are now returning. So that they're trying to reverse the exodus and come back to the urban cores. We've already seen immense gentrification in our downtown area, and we live in a hyper segregated city. So you can clearly delineate the Black side of town from the white side of town. And we're already seeing this side of town turn back. And what that means is that means a raise in property value. So property value is spiking, and it's critical for us to combat that, because what we don't want is for the people that have lived here with little access to opportunity, whether it's food, education, medical services. We've seen hospitals close down. People are dying because their ambulance has to travel too far to transport them in an emergency. We've seen, education, food, all of these areas. And now all of a sudden, these areas are being met, and they're putting in the necessary structures that it takes in order to really run a community. And then you're telling me that the inhabitants have to leave because they no longer can afford it. We've seen external investors raising prices on rent, which does not allow for people to renew their leases. We see houses turn over 100,000 1 year, 2 years later it sells for 200,000. That is gentrification. So Unified Powers Community Land Trust. Think about a community land trust. What you can do with a community land trust, that entity is able to lock in a property value for 99 years in a lease. You don't make money off the ground lease, but you can get equity from the building or the house that's on that land, and share that equity with your other community members that maybe are first-time home buyers. Maybe they're leaving low-income housing. Maybe they've never owned and only rented because of lack of access to a mortgage. So we've been talking with banks, and we've been working feverishly to institute this seed fund so that we can provide individuals with opportunities to home ownership, and most importantly, affordable quality living. So that's the mission of Unified Power. Proud West Daytonians, transforming humanity through collective impact, access, and raised awareness for quality, affordable living. And that's the major project right now. It's called Unified Power. We are tackling all of the maladies in 45402. Those are zip codes: 02, 05, 06, 16, 17, and 26. They try to peg us and say, oh yeah, this is your area. But no, we work together collectively for the transformation of humanity in West Dayton, hopefully building a scalable project that can be in any urban core duplicated, because we want power to be shown, to be lived and experienced where we're at. We don't want to have to leave our area. We know that this is good land, so we want to be able to stay where we are and thrive and live and be successful and have high quality of life. And that's going to happen. We're in a futuristic time. We're getting ready to see some extreme advances with technology. People need to tap into their innovative nature, and we're looking for witty inventions and new and innovative ways of being able to run our communities, and jobs and affordable housing. Again, that's quality housing, brand new housing, because what we got when we moved here, these houses were already here. We moved into the houses that they lived in, and they went and built new houses in the suburbs. So we're tearing down some of this old stuff and building new houses, really looking at some of the compartment, I don't know if you've seen the storage container homes, but really looking at some creative, durable means of construction, especially with a lot of the heightened prices and construction costs these days. So Unified Power is a force to be reckoned with. And you can check out Unified Power or myself by visiting Dayton Unified Power at gmail.com. That's my email. I would love to get an email from any of you all inquiring about the work we're doing here in Dayton. You could also visit www.coopdayton, that's COOPDAYTON.com/Unified Power. And that's a backslash. So please, if you would like to call me, you can even call me. I'm at 937-674-3063. My name is Kenya Baker, and I really thank you for this opportunity to share with cities and individuals across this country the work that we're doing here in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh yeah, it's truly an honor. I'm inspired. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely inspired. I'm glad that you came on the show. So until next time, family, this has been another episode of Taye Speaks. Peace.
One love.